I am joined today by my friend Suleika Jaouad. Suleika is an Emmy award-winning journalist, author, artist, and advocate. She's also just like the kindest person I know, and I love to tell her my problems. She's the author of the instant New York Times bestselling memoir, Between Two Kingdoms, which is one of my very favorite book recommendations. And also, if you haven't seen it yet, you have to watch the documentary she made with her husband, John Baptiste. It's called American Symphony, and it is gorgeous and moving and lives into so many of the questions that we have about how to exist with the beautiful and terrible realities of life with hope and faith and more courage than we wish we had. But her latest is the Book of Alchemy, which is a gorgeous collection of reflections and prompts from Suleika. She's got these incredible essays in there and also those of many of her wonderful friends. And it's one of those like gentle, brilliant, encouraging ways to help inspire your own creative journey. I read it immediately and all the way through, but it's just indicative of exactly who she is. She makes beautiful things. Suleika, my dear, I love to look at your big, gorgeous face. Thank you for being the best
Hi,
part of my day.
Kate. I love you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Okay, for people just who might be unfamiliar with your story, I wondered if we could just start there for a moment. So you were diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of leukemia, first when you were 22, and since then you've had just seasons, like seasons of remission where things felt possible again, seasons of relapse when things felt small and terrifying. And you are the person that I immediately think of as someone who understands the scope and breadth of the longevity of an illness and the way that we are marked by like spring and then fall and then spring and then fall all over again. And you live like this, like with the capacity to hold both.
So, it's the longevity of illness, but I also think it's the longevity of the human condition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a perfect, you're like, you've
I've
been
been
human
for
longer
36
than you wanted
years,
to be.
and some things have happened in those 36 years.
Yes.
And, I found out this last summer that my leukemia was back for the third time. And it's the kind of news that makes you feel like you have a sword of Damocles hovering over your head that's going to fall at any moment. And, it's interesting. My first diagnosis at 22 was so traumatizing. I had no sense of what it means to confront one's mortality in this way, of what it means to have to exist in the kingdom of the sick and to learn all the protocols and medicalese and all the things that come with it. This time around, I have been committed to giving my illness the time and attention it requires of me and not 1 second more. I'm so over it. I'm so bored of the dramatic phone call from the doctor. Oh, I know this story. I've watched this movie before. It's like the worst kind of deja vu. And I spent about a month after I got that news in bed. I just couldn't. It really snowed me in. I couldn't keep up my newsletter for the first time ever. I went dark with no explanation, no like polished little note saying like I'm taking a break or, whatever. I just couldn't even bring myself to do that. And instead of immediately pivoting into action, into slapping on that like courageous, I need to be strong, I need to like rally all my people and figure out what to make of this place, which has always been my default. Not necessarily because I'm particularly good at those things, but also because I believe that we're conditioned to feel like that's how we need to respond to difficult moments. But for the first time, I just gave myself the permission to fall apart for a month, and to be scared and to be sad and to be wildly unproductive about it without even some sense that like, okay, I can do this for a week and then I have to get back to work. And I was just like, I don't know. I might get back to my life. I might not. Like, that's the place that I was in. And about a month into that, I realized I don't want to do that anymore. I didn't necessarily want to swing to the other end of the spectrum either. But I really felt like for the first time, I just got to a place of surrendering to the inevitability of what it means to be human, which is to say that these seasons come and go, and sometimes they go on for far longer than we want them to, and sometimes you're in the season for as long as you're in the season, and that's it. And it's not to say I don't feel sad or scared about it. I do. But I feel very like a deep sense of humility about it, and a deep awareness that
it's so, when you almost said humiliated, that's exactly the transition feeling though. Like, that's so in it to like, I am leveled, but then like, I am humbled is such a close relationship to that.
Totally.
Like, okay, then
I'm
it
humiliated
is.
by it,
Then
and
it
I'm
is.
humbled by it. This is the one certainty. We are born and we die.
Yeah.
And I, have spent so much of my adult life feeling anxious about the next biopsy. I just want to live my life as best as I can. And so it's really, it's been a big scales falling from the eyes moment for me.
Wow.
And I think I'm, as a result of it, in a place of real freedom and permission that I don't think I've ever allowed myself before.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for telling me that. Like, because the realization moment, the one where you feel sort of like you're just getting stripped down to the studs. You have to like take off all the clothes that you wear for the life that you had. And then I feel sometimes like I go almost immediately into like, I was thinking about it lately, like New Year's Day diet mode. Like, you're like, okay, well then I have to. And then it's like a regimen. So for you to like let yourself not know if you wanted to come back to productivity or talking about it or like any of the have tos sounds really like you got to some pretty deep, like a deep place. I love when you say survival is a creative act. I wondered if you could tell me a bit about that.
So, I feel like as kids, we're so deeply, innately creative in a way that we have access to all the time. We play make-believe. We're constantly tapping into our imagination. We're making like gloriously messy finger paintings without any conception or concern for if they're good or they're bad or if you're doing it right or wrong. And as we get older, we lose that sense of experimentation and playfulness. We, lose that connection to the creativity that lives in all of us. And we get self-conscious. We start to compare ourselves. We start to worry about things like, if I put a lot of hours into this, what does it amount to? What's the outcome? And if there's no outcome, what's the point? And we start to believe that we're good at creativity or we're bad at it. And I think a lot of us from the time we're really young have these deep creative injuries. I have a big one that I can pinpoint where...
Creative injuries? Is that what you said? That's such a perfect phrase. Like the moment you're like, oh, wait, I'm judging my creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And where you think like, maybe I can do this privately, but I should never do this in any sort of outward facing kind of way. But, with my first diagnosis and each of the relapses since, I've come to realize that, being sick requires a tremendous amount of creativity. When the chemo sores in your mouth make it too painful to speak, you have to find other ways to feel connected and to commune with your loved ones. When you're stuck in a hospital bed for many weeks and you can't even open the window, you do have to tap into your imagination to travel beyond those confines. And whether or not you're creative in terms of your work, everything we do requires creativity. A fight with your husband requires creativity. Cooking requires creativity. And once I started to think about survival as its own act of creativity, it shifted something inside of me. So I'll give you like a really concrete example. 3 years ago, I underwent a second bone marrow transplant, and as you know, and when I went into the hospital, I was like, I've been here before. I know it's going to help me get through it. I had kept a journal in the form of a 100-day project the first go around. And I was like, cool. I'm going to write my way through this. This is how I figure out who I am. It's how I ground myself. It's where I make sense of the world. And fast forward a couple of days, and I had a complication that resulted in my vision being impaired for about 3 weeks. And I could barely see anything. I was seeing like triple, and I couldn't write with any semblance of ease, and I certainly couldn't journal. And some younger version of me would have felt really frustrated. But I've had my plans implode enough times that I know that to hold to them is just like a recipe for added despair. And that there's an invitation there to make some kind of a creative pivot. And so instead of writing in my journal, I started keeping a visual journal of the weird nightmares and medication-induced hallucinations I was having. And I'm not a painter. I'm not a trained painter. I know nothing about painting. And these nightmares I was having were terrifying to me. But in the act of transcribing them in watercolor, they became interesting to me and even strangely beautiful. And by the end of that month, my entire hospital room was plastered in these bizarre paintings. And that to me is, it's the alchemy I've come to look to when everything goes to shit. And when I really find myself with two choices, which is to be in despair and to find some way to creatively make it my own, to become the handler of what plagues me or the handler of my fears rather than the handled.
I love thinking about that, hon, because you like those paintings, like the giraffe holding up the IV bag. It had that like Edward Gorey feeling sometimes, where the things that scare you are also the things that like you have to make a relationship with. I love the feeling of like the Play-Doh description, like you're making it into something else. It's not always, and it's not for something, except that the making it is inherently like it takes you somewhere. It's wild that it takes you somewhere.
And it always does. And I guess, to go back to what we started with, it's like the fear will always come. Yes. I think in a lot of ways, I'm an exceptionally fearful person, even pre-illness. And I spent a lot of my life trying to wrangle that fear, which is to say, to dodge it, to plaster over it, to control it, rather than to collaborate with it, which I think is what, this new season has brought about. I'm in collaboration with my fear. It's here. It's not going away. But when
Yeah.
I dance with it, when I get curious about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
the fear always gives me what I need most when I'm able to do that.
Yeah. I like the idea that it sometimes it gives me a feeling like even if it's if be like, okay, it's nothing, it doesn't have to be anything, but it gives me a little feeling of like it's not just a job, it's not just like a checklist, like I'm on a little
Yeah.
quest. Like it's almost like it draws an arrow somewhere, even if it's just for me, but it feels like an arrow
Yeah.
doing it.
And I know for me, and I think I've always been like this. And part of this is probably just a product of existing in a culture that values productivity over everything.
Everything.
But
Yes. And then I start to value productivity as the most important thing about me.
absolutely. But I'm always looking for ways to lower the stakes for myself, to
Yeah.
shed whatever external or self-imposed expectations I have, and to get back to that space of childlike wonder and curiosity
Yeah.
and trusting your intuition, because you're not worried about looking foolish or
Mm-hmm.
being humiliated. And you're just
Mm-hmm.
creating from that really honest place.
My son's
Yeah, I
creative
want to
act
hear it.
recently is he's just digging a
I
huge
love
hole in the
that.
backyard. Like just a huge, but I mean like 4 hours a day. It's like created skin irritation. He started like covering his whole arms with band-aids before I was like, it will make it more stressful when you have to take them off. But every day he's like,
Dig my hole.
just gotta see where I can go. And I'm like, well, I can probably just go about 6 inches down. But then it was filling with water every time it rained. And then he like went into the garage. He's not that old, went and learned to use a sump pump like a good little Mennonite. And I was like, I could tell his whole world is like lit up by this enormous, unhelpfully large, ruining my backyard
I
hole.
love that.
And I sort of like it most about
I
him.
want to fly down and come help him dig that hole just a little deeper. That sounds so fun to me. I don't want
Yeah.
to cross off some big bucket list items. I don't want to live every day as if it's my last. It's exhausting to live that way. It's exhausting to feel pressure, to
Yes.
have every interaction be meaningful. Carpe diem the shit out of every single moment and like squeeze the juice. I don't want to do that. I'm tired of doing that. I've tried to do that. I've done it enough. It's stressful and anxiety inducing, and I'm over it. What I do want to do is dig a big hole in my backyard just for fun, because that's what lights me up. I want to return to that wonder, to that idea, instead of living every day as if it's my first, and feeling a sense of freedom to do what excites me and what makes me feel alive, and what nourishes me. And that's never the big things. It's my own version of digging a hole. It's like cuddling my little hairless, toothless senior rescue addition to the family wolf pack.
I've really just started thinking a lot about the power of ritual, like not the 5-step easy plan to a happier, better, more productive life, but like just how important they are regardless of any value add. And my Catholic friend, it's always good to have a lovely priest friend, Father Ron Rollheiser. He talks about how ritual is something that's meaningful, like whether it benefits you or not. And that really reminded me of you and like this daily creative practice that you've been encouraging so many people to do.
So in the book I write about journaling, but really journaling, I think, is like a very capacious term. Journaling is almost a placeholder for ritual for me, because it's not necessarily writing, with paper and pen. It comes out in all kinds of ways, but it is taking that moment in a
Oh, I love
consistent
that. I
daily
really love
way,
that, hon.
where I'm doing something intentionally for myself.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes I literally will write one sentence or do one little sketch of something. It takes me less than 30 seconds. Other days it is like a lighting the candle and like my cup of coffee in the morning and really luxuriating and, my 3 pages. But it's moving through, whatever internal resistance I have or whatever excuses I concoct for myself that I
Oh,
don't
that's
have
right.
time,
Yeah.
and showing up for myself, sitting down and taking a moment to be in conversation with myself and to check in. And I think it's really hard to do that. It's so easy to wake up and to tumble headfirst into a never ending list of to dos and to wake up the next day and do it all over again. And even on your weekends, and you're like tackling your home to do, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's that shift from human doing to human being. And I have been doing my whole life, much like you. I was born with some internal drive or what. I don't even know where it comes from. I don't know if it's good for me. I don't know if it's, I don't know,
Yeah.
something I need to work out in
Or if it's always
therapy
both.
and like,
Yeah.
break down in clinician directed counseling. I don't know, but I do know that like I want that pause. I want to take a beat before my to-do list. I
Yeah.
want to cultivate ritual, even if I don't feel
Yeah.
like it, because
Yeah.
no one's gonna make you do it otherwise, and everything goes by in a
Yeah.
blink.
That's such a good idea. I think there's a kind of deep hopefulness with the way you're talking about the desire to just to participate in making something new. It really reminds me of my lovely friend Lanicia Rouse. She's a mixed media artist, and she said something that just stuck with me forever. She had just experienced the loss of a baby. She was overwhelmed by having to like pivot back to starting this enormous art project. And I think it was the person at the, I don't know how canvas stores work, but like the person selling canvases that said, like, this canvas won't be blank forever. And I wondered if that's just how you think about the creative life as this small bits of hope making. Just whatever this is, it won't be blank forever. Whatever this is, there's still something new that's going to be born. Whatever could have been meant for despair, I can nudge it toward good. Like it feels sometimes to me like the only true lie is just the only true, like complete untruth is despair. That there's nothing for us, like in the worst moments.
I think, like, to me, the opposite of creativity is stasis. And so what you're saying resonates so deeply with me because, yeah, there is a great comfort in knowing that nothing lasts. No bad feeling lasts. No good feeling lasts. And as long as you're keeping the energy moving, it's always in flux all the
Yeah.
time. There's always, I was going to use a word I never use. There's something about creative living that really feels miraculous to me. You make something where there was
Yes.
nothing before, or where there was something different before, and it does
Yes.
feel like a kind of alchemy, this like transmutation of something that might be considered base or worthless into something noble and precious, that shift from lead to gold, or sometimes gold to
Yes.
lead. But either way, you're in motion, you're in movement, and that canvas that felt blank is no longer blank. And I find a deep sense of comfort in that. It's what, really helps me navigate, like all the many what ifs I feel. I had, a biopsy last week ago. I haven't shared this. And I kept saying, to John and to my parents, I was like, I always need my biopsies to go well, but I really need this one to go well. Like, I'm about to have this book launch and go on a tour, and I've been working so hard on this. And I just I need to be focused. I need to have energy. I just need this one to go well. Yeah. And of course, it's the one that did not go well. That showed a jump in the amount of leukemia in my body. Yeah. And, after I get back from this tour, I'll go straight back into treatment and probably a clinical trial. And, there was a moment where I felt tempted to be like, this has ruined everything. I've worked so hard and blah, 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 and to feel really bad for myself. And, obviously I'm not happy about this news, but again, that sense of motion, I'm like, okay, this is happening. It's not happening right now. I still get to go on my tour and do my book launch. And then this other thing will be happening, which sounds scary to me and not particularly fun. But within that movement, there will be other movements, and other ways in which I can enact my own kind of alchemy. And I don't know what that is yet. And I don't know what it looks like, but I know it's available to me always. And I feel deep comfort in that knowledge, that it's that kind of creative living, that alchemy is there for me whenever I'm ready, to wrangle it.
Oh, my deepest hope maker, hon, the way you're sometimes we feel so carried by the current that we feel like we'll just be swept away. And for you to just allow yourself to be taken with the current only as much as it needs to take you. And then to just swim over here, swim over there, find the new little spaces in which to land on some little patch somewhere, hon. I've seen you do it over and over and over again. And I just want you to know how stunning it is to watch someone so beautiful participate in reality with such profound hope and love. It creates awe. It creates genuine awe for me to watch you up close. Thank you. Thanks for telling me all that. This is such a stunning book. It's such a stunning way of living that you encourage us into. And it's such a beautiful community that you facilitated around you where people want to try because they love to try with you. So thank you so much for doing this with me. This is, it's been the best.
And thank you for being one of those 100 in the book, and for your essay and prompt on anti-blessings, which feels particularly apt for me right now.
That's the good or bad. God
exactly. Exactly. I adore you.
I love you.